Tell me when we're ready. What are we doing? Okay. Hey everybody, Dr. Axe here. Welcome to the live. Today I'm going to be talking about visualization to realization. And this is something that's really impacted my life in a powerful way. The power to visualize that future that you want, whether that be better health, more wealth, better relationships, advancing in your career, having a bigger impact in the world. Visualization is key. It's something that we used with my mom to beat cancer. It's something I used to overcome a serious health crisis I had over the past year, which was a spinal infection, and something I also used in my career and in my relationship. So we're going to get into all that today. And listen, it's not just about visualization by itself. There are steps in between visualization and realization, which include prioritizing, strategizing, and systematizing that will help your visions and dreams become a reality. I want to start off the show today by giving you a shout out. Let me know the city you're from, the state you're from, the country you're from, and I will give you a shout out. Also, hey, if you love what I love, which is mindset medicine and lifestyle medicine, and you want to help people like I do know the truth about how to heal and grow in their life, then do me a favor, click the share button, the love button, make a comment, do everything you can to help me spread the word right now. All right, so we've got somebody joining me from Turkey over in the Middle East. Hey, thanks for joining me here today. Albany, we have Bella from Albany, New York. We've got Constance from Plant City, Florida. We've got Miriam from Slovenia. Someone from Florida, Dallas, Texas. Well, we got people jumping on from all over right now. I see here on Instagram, also on Facebook. I know we've got people jumping on. Gage from Florida, Kathy from California, Jerry from New York City. Hey, thanks everybody for joining me here today. So today we're talking about how to go from visualization to realization. And so I want to start off here just sort of sharing a story with what we did with my mom. And then I want to share something personal. You may not know, but for the past year, I battled a spinal infection and was able to finally heal and overcome it, not without some major trauma. I didn't walk for a year. I was in bed for a full year, so that's why maybe you haven't seen me as much recently. But I'll talk about how I use visualization and then also how I used it in my career. I went from a person who had a 2.3 GPA in high school, not doing well, to eventually earning my doctorate and also graduating from Johns Hopkins University. And so anyways, I'm going to share with you sort of how to do that. So if there's anything you want to achieve in your life, we'll go through how to do that today. So for starters, you know, when I was in junior high, so 7th grade, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And this was so crazy for us because my mom was a gym teacher. She looked the part of health. And the doctors told her, you have a 40% chance to live. And, you know, thank God she went through she went through treatments and was diagnosed as cancer-free, but never seemed healthy. Then she was diagnosed with cancer again. And at this point, she decided to take care of it all naturally. And one of the things we incorporated during that time was visualization. And so my mom, one of the things I said to my mom was, I said, Mom, what do you want your life to look like in 25 years? And she said, Josh, what I want to see is, she said, I would love bringing my kids to Disney World. That's what she said. That was her big thing. Like, I want to bring my grandkids to Disney World, and I want to be water skiing when I'm, 70 with your dad and going on boating trips and getting an RV and all that. So she really shared this really crystal clear vision. And the next thing I said was, Mom, how does that make you feel? And she said, it makes me feel happy, joyful, excited about my future. And then I said, okay, in order for you to end up in that place, what are all the things that you should start doing now for your health and preparing for that to become a reality? And so she said, well, I know that I need to change my diet and do this and this. And so I said, yes, exactly. And so my mom had this vision for being healthier and happier and all of these different things. And we started moving towards that. She started moving towards that. And, 9 months later, she beat cancer. She was in complete remission. And then, my mom turned 70 fairly recently. And, this was 2 weeks ago. She brought my niece and nephew to Disney World and was there for 10 hours. And I don't think most people are even capable of that. So anyways, all that being said, my mom now has fantastic health. But visualization is important. I want to say this actually a few years later, I was working with some Olympic athletes, and one of the people I had an opportunity to speak with was Michael Phelps. And one of the things I will tell you that was so amazing about Michael Phelps, if you ever watched him when he was in his career, he would put a kind of hood over his head and he would just sort of stare. And he was asked in an interview, they said, what are you doing when you're just sitting there sort of quiet, just staring? They said, you look like you're in the zone. He said, what I'm doing is I'm visualizing myself winning, but not only visualizing myself winning, I'm visualizing every stroke and every turn and every detail of me winning. So the entire event. And so it just really, really crystal clear. The greatest golfer, one of the two greatest golfers of all time, Jack Nicklaus, said this. He said, the most important part of my game is visualization. He said, before every time I hit the ball, I picture it going into the hole. That's really, we're talking some of the greatest athletes of all time. They said that they incorporate visualization not just once a year when they're doing their New Year's resolutions, but every moment of their day, every time before they hit a shot or take a stroke or do an event or anything, they're visualizing what it would look like. Now think about how important it is for you to do this in your own life. You want to have a crystal clear vision, because if you don't have a vision, you'll end up somewhere you don't want to be. There's a proverb for this. People perish for lack of wisdom or lack of vision. And so you really want to make sure that you do have a crystal clear vision for your life and what you want. So if you're a person struggling with a health issue right now, maybe you've got an issue like hypothyroidism, okay? And you're tired all the time, and you're 20 pounds heavier than you want to be, and you're overwhelmed. Well, picture yourself happy and healthy and energized and getting off your medication, whatever it might be, picturing yourself, and then say, okay, what is my ideal strategy in order to start making that a reality? And that's the way that you want to think about this. By the way, I want to hear from you if you have ever practiced visualization and if it's worked. And so do me a favor right now as well. Hey, click the share button, punch the love button. If you have a question as well, I'm going to answer a few of those as well. Feel free to mention that here, or ask your questions here as well. I know we've got people from all over the world who are joining me right now here live. By the way, I want to mention this as well. If you're a person that is interested in helping others, in coaching them as a nutritionist, I'm going to put a link in here. There is a program that I am an instructor for. I'm a professor for the Health Institute, and they have a functional nutrition program. And in this program, I teach everyone from somebody who doesn't have a degree at all, just a layperson, to we also have a lot of MDs and chiropractors and naturopaths who go through the course because they want to learn root cause medicine, how to treat people. If you're interested in that, hey, check out the link for the functional nutrition certification. You can become a certified nutrition coach. And this is something that we really get into very deep training. So if you're interested, we're going to put that in the comments here as well. All right, so Camille says, I'm practicing this right now, visualizing everything. That's so good. So now here's another thing I want to mention though, and this is really key. You're not going to want to forget this. It's important that when you are practicing visualization, that it's something that's meaningful and something that matters. I want to give you an example. Let's say, for instance, I spent time visualizing and I said to myself, I want to have a Lamborghini. And I saw that. And I saw myself getting in the Lamborghini, getting out of the Lamborghini, all these things. And I saw myself swimming in cash. So, but here's the question. Would I really get to the end of my life and be proud of that? So it's important that what you are visualizing is meaningful, that it's significant, that you get the end of your life, the end of that race, and say, I am so proud of who I've become and what I've accomplished, right? So the first step, actually, even before visualization, is prioritization. You need to prioritize what are those things that matter most in life. Your faith, your family, your health and fitness, maybe some of your finances, things like that. But generally, so think about yourself in that way. And I want to give you an example. Like, let me give you an example how I might do this. So one of the things that I realized at one point in my life is I'm moving too fast, and sometimes that can come across as being mean or not caring. And so I started thinking about, this is really related to my faith and my character. Who do I want to become? I want to become more like Jesus, more like a saint, more like Mother Teresa, more like a Martin Luther King, more like somebody that really just cares deeply about people, more than somebody that's patient and will be calm and collected and add value and speak life into people. So I want to be that. By the way, most of us have to-do lists. More of us need to-be lists, right? So I want to do this. I want to check mark. I picked up groceries. I dropped the kids off at school. Versus I want to be kind and grateful and generous. And you think about that to-be list. Here are the things I want to be, and that leads to a good life. So that part of that is those priorities is, okay, my one priority is my faith. And I want to have the sort of faith that speaks life into people and encourages people. So think about to be. So I want to be that. I want to be an encourager. I want to be faithful. I want to be hopeful. So write those things down. And then picture yourself like that. And picture yourself ahead of time. If you have somebody who comes to you and they're having a bad day, you might just kind of blow them off or picture yourself, visualize saying, you know what? I want to be the type of person that puts my hand on that person's shoulder and says, how are you doing really? Hey, can I do something for you? Can I pray for you? Can I serve you in some way? How can I support you right now as you're struggling with this thing in your life? Right? So that's the first thing there is you want to visualize yourself and make sure you're visualizing something that's a priority or your family, right? I want to be the sort of parent that shows up to almost every single game. I want to be the sort of parent that doesn't yell at my kids, but I sit them down and have a deep conversation with them. I want to be the sort of parent that, so you think about that. You visualize what you want to be as a parent, right? And then maybe it's your career. And you say, I want to be an expert in leadership or an expert in nutrition. Let's say, hey, I want to eventually become a nutritionist or a health coach or and add value to people's lives or in a health influencer on social media. Okay, so you say you want to do that. That's great. Visualize what that looks like. Okay, make that a priority. And then here's the next step. Create a strategy in order to do that. What is your strategy for making that vision a reality? And so what you might do, for instance, if you say to yourself, I want to become a nutritionist. Okay, so you make that decision. Well, if you decide you want to be a nutritionist, then you may say, well, I need to start reading more and learning more about health and nutrition. So, hey, I'm going to go and find out what are the top 5 books that Dr.Axe recommends. And books like Never Be Sick Again and Ancient Remedies and some of these others. And so you have your list. And then you start devoting certain time a day. So that's the next thing. So, okay, my strategy is I'm going to read a book every other month and I'm going to take this functional nutrition course and I'm going to start learning these things, okay? So that's part of your strategy. And then you systematize it and you make it a habit or you put it in your schedule. Okay, so I'm going to start devoting 4 hours a week to growing in my wisdom and knowledge on health and wellness and nutrition. I'm going to spend 2 hours a week on this functional nutrition course. I'm going to spend another 30 minutes, 4 days a week listening to podcasts while I work out or while I go on a walk or reading a book, right? So then you systematize it. So remember, here's step 1, prioritize. Step number 2, visualize. Step number 3, strategize. Step number 4, systematize. And then you realize that dream. It becomes a reality. And so those are the steps in order from visualization to realization. I want to tell you a crazy story. Chelsea and I got married back in 2012. We got married down in Destin, Florida. If you've ever been down there in an area, there's also an area called 38. So we got married, and then we did a mini honeymoon for 3 days in an area called Seaside and Watercolor. It's down there in the panhandle of Florida. And one of the things we did while we were there is we rented bikes. And we went on a bike ride kind of those 3 days. And one of the things we did as well, we had just got married. This is like 2 days after. And I said, hey, would you want to create a vision board? Let's visualize our future together. Let's start dreaming. And so we did this over some, wine and good food and started talking about our future. And one of the things being down there, we said it would be great to eventually be able to have a house down here. This is a big, hairy, audacious goal we have. So we started visualizing it and thinking about it. And then when I got home, back to Nashville after that, I went online and did a Google search. And I searched homes on 30A or homes in watercolor, and I found a house I thought I looked great. And so I took the picture, put it on my vision board. I'd never seen the home before. 5 years later, maybe 6 years later, I was down in Seaside again. Chelsea and I were on a family vacation with her parents. And we weren't in a financial place to buy a second home yet or have a beach home, but I was talking to my father-in-law, Joel, and we had gone by, and this lot was for sale we absolutely loved. And I said to Joel, I said, hey, would you guys ever be interested in going in together and buying a house, a beach house together and we could share it? And they said, yeah. And so we ended up buying this lot and started building this house. Well, a few weeks later, after buying this lot, I was in my office and I have a vision board on my wall. And I looked up at my vision board and I thought, wow, that house on that vision board looks so familiar. And I realized we bought the lot that was right next door to this house. And there are thousands of houses in this area. I don't even know that I'd ever seen it before. It's the power of visualization. It's incredible. So there's something that happens neurologically, and studies have proven this, and we know this from common sense. When your brain, even if it's subconscious, knows that you've got a finish line, something in front of you, you start moving towards it. Things start to happen, making it a reality. And so there is really something powerful about visualization. By the way, I want to read a study here to you that I think is a powerful study that's done by a psychologist at the University of Chicago. Before I do that, though, by the way, if you're enjoying this live broadcast, do me a favor, punch the share button and click the love button. Let's help spread the word of the power of visualization. A lot of people aren't living out or fulfilling their dreams. Oftentimes people are fuzzy and unclear about what they really want in life, and oftentimes we haven't taken the time to prioritize and visualize and strategize and create those systems in order to make our dreams a reality. So thanks everybody. I see a lot of you sharing this right now and helping me get the message out there. Here's the study. A study conducted by Dr. Baziato at the University of Chicago was done where he split people into 3 groups. One group, and by the way, this was done with basketball players. So he had one group of people not practice at all for 30 days, shooting free throws. So one didn't practice shooting free throws. Another group shot free throws and they practiced an hour a day. Another group just visualized themselves every day making free throws. 30 days later, they went back and shot free throws. Listen to this. After 30 days, the group that didn't practice or visualize saw the same number, so 0% improvement. The group that did practice saw a 20% improvement in their free throws, and the group that only visualized, they did not shoot a basket one time, they just pictured it going in, improved by 23%. So the results of visualization were almost as close as those that actually practiced. Now, when you combine both together, which they didn't do in this study, it's likely even more powerful, where you both visualize and practice together. And the greatest athletes of all time, whether it be Michael Jordan, again, Jack Nicklaus, we talked about Michael Phelps, they all practice visualization. If you look at gymnasts or anyone else, they practice visualization. You want to practice the same thing yourself in order to turn your dreams into a reality. And you want to do this in your career. If you're a person saying, you know what, I want to make more money, I want to have a greater impact, I want to grow in my career and my skills, do this very same thing. Picture yourself maybe speaking on stage or having a large social media following or getting a promotion at work. So picture that. And also prioritizing the right way. Here's something else I just want to be very clear about as well. You want to grow your skill, but you want to grow your character along with that. You know what I see on social media so often today? People just posting in order to gratify themselves. Whether they're taking a picture of their their face or their behind or whatever it is, right? It's like, I'm just going to post whatever I can to get more likes. Post in order to transform lives. That should be a priority. This is what I just want to be clear about this. When you are visualizing, you can visualize your account getting bigger, but also visualize the lives changed. You know have you seen the research on the number of women under the age of 30, the number of girls, especially adolescent girls in high school, whose self-esteem is negatively affected by social media? Well, why don't you start becoming part of the solution and talking about how worthy women are and beautiful in their skills and the way that God's created them. And the same thing for masculinity. Actually, men are trashed all the time today. That's a whole nother topic. But you can be part of the solution on social media, fighting for women, fighting for men, fighting for people, and doing something that's virtuous at the same time, earning a greater income and career. So that being said, going back to this, when you're visualizing, let's say you want to increase your social media following, picture that, but also picture how you're doing it. You're doing it by speaking life into people and sharing things that build self-esteem and transform mindsets and help people grow and transform. And then picture those lives changed. Somebody hugging you out of nowhere. By the way, this happened to me years ago. In 2012, I went to the Olympic Games and had an opportunity to travel with a council called the Wellness Council there. And I had somebody on the London subway. This is when I just started my YouTube channel. And I had a guy come up to me and said, Dr. Axe. And I said, do I know you? He said, no, I watch you on YouTube. And he said, man, you've just impacted my life in such a positive ways. He's like, you never saw me before, but I lost 30 pounds and I feel the best I've ever felt. And that was a moment for me where I realized, wow, I really love what I do. And I started visualizing that more, that I'm traveling, across seas and I'm impacting people in that way. But you can have that very same thing, right? Visualize that happening. And I think you'll see it will turn into a reality there as well. But you want to visualize it. Remember, prioritize. What's that thing, that area where you can really make a difference in, and how do you do it? And then visualize it. And then the next step is, what's your strategy? How are you going to grow in your career, right? And so you start making all of those plans on exactly how you do that. Here's how I do this. By the way, one of the things I did recently was I said, you know what? I want to make sure that Chelsea and I are optimizing our family life. And so that was something I realized. This is a priority for me, is our family. And I started visualizing, what does a great family look like? And I started really thinking about that, and I thought, well, one of the signs of a really virtuous family is, kids that are growing up that are really kind and loving and have great work ethic. And so I started picturing Arwen, my daughter, and her, graduating school and her, impacting lives in a possible way, going on mission trips and thinking about all these different things. And so I really visualized. I also visualized. In different ages. So anyways, I visualized that, and I thought, in order for us to have a really tight-knit family where we support each other, we're each other's biggest champions and confidants, and we are impacting a community together, what would have to be true? What are those things that we need to do? And I looked at the research on this. One of the biggest practices that leads to a great family dynamic are family meals together. Family dinners, family brunches. There was a research study on this, and it was incredible. In fact, I want to say the study found that the number one thing, or one of the top three things, that determined how close a parent and child were how many times a week that they sat down and had a meal together. Isn't that crazy? And growing up in the Midwest in Ohio, this was a practice we had. I mean, we sat down, family dinner. We couldn't have the TV on. We didn't actually have cell phones when I was during that time. And we would sit down, and my dad would ask me how my day was, and it was great. We had a casserole because we were in Ohio, and it was fantastic. By the way, I'd love to hear from you. How many of you grew up having family dinners, family meals together? And it happens a lot less now than it actually did even 25 years ago. But again, the research shows it's one of the most important practices. Now listen, it doesn't just have to be dinner, but they found the optimal number is if you could get to 7 meals together a week. So there's 21 total meals. If you could do 1/3 of those, so maybe Saturday it's breakfast and Sunday it's brunch, and then maybe it's a few days a week you do dinner together, something like that, okay? But the minimum was 3. 7 is ideal, 3 as a minimum. And if you could do that, it just had a profound impact on how close-knit you are as a family. So that was one of the things I put down as my strategy is we want to do more family meals together. So we do this now. We do 7 a week at least, and so we'll do on Sundays we'll do church or worship together, and then we'll do brunch, and we tend to do Sunday nights as well, and then we tend to do a Saturday breakfast. We tend to do a workout and then eat together, and then we do dinner several nights a week, and then sometimes we do this with my in-laws where we kind of do family meal together that way. But that is something that's just so powerful. By the way, there's other things. So family dinners, attending a religious service together. Whether that be, a Christian church or a Jewish synagogue, whatever it might be, but actually attending some sort of religious function together once a week was another thing that studies have shown actually makes you more generous and shows that you contribute more as a family. So that's, and by the way, I'm not bringing up religion just to bring it up. It's just, that's what the scientific research shows. So that was another big one. Another big one is that the family cultivates a growth mindset. So here's the thing, this is key for parents. You don't tell your kids how great they are. Now, when they're from 0 to 5 years old, you can tell them how great they are. But once they reach 5 years old, you don't want to congratulate them or say, you're so smart. You want to say, you worked really hard. So you don't want to congratulate something that's their intelligence. You want to, or that they got a ribbon, you want to say, I'm proud of you for working so hard. So you want to praise work ethic and you want to praise effort over the accomplishment itself. That's key. There's some great psychological research on this by Carol Dweck, the author of Mindset. That's another key to creating great family dynamics. By the way, I'm going to be coming out with a brand new podcast here in about 4 weeks. And I'm going to dive into the medical literature and the research on this at a much deeper level. So make sure to stay tuned for that podcast that will be coming out here. And if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe because we'll be getting into a lot more of that research on some of these topics. Because I have a lot more, but those are at least just a few of the strategies you may think about incorporating in order to create a family dynamic. And then it's a system. You schedule it. Okay, every Sunday we're doing a religious service, then we're doing family brunch, right? So you schedule that time into your week in order to do that and make that a priority. And then you go from this sort of prioritization to visualization to then realizing having a great family environment. But one of the things I notice is not enough of us plan and not enough of us have a very clear vision of what it is we truly want. And that's one of the things I would encourage you with is that don't do what culture says, which is say, hey, I want fame and fortune. That's going to lead to emptiness. Instead, what will truly make me happy and allow me to know that I really made a difference, that I contributed, that I led a life that really mattered? So think about those priorities. Are you living those out? Now visualize what that would look like and who you need to become in order to do that. And I think you'll see it's going to really have a big impact on your life. I want to answer some questions now. So feel free to ask questions about anything. It could be about personal growth, leadership, business, health. Feel free. I'm going to answer some of those questions. By the way, thanks everybody right now who has been sharing. Do me a favor right now. Punch the share button, click the love button. Help me spread the truth about mindset medicine, which is a lot of what I'm talking about. Your mindset is key to your health, but also your wealth and your relationships and so much more. So feel free to ask some questions here. Excited to answer some of those right now. And again, thanks. I see everybody punching the love button, the share button. Thanks everybody for helping me get the message out here. And we're getting some great quotes here from so many people. Hey, thanks everybody. Okay. Somebody said, how to get motivated to work out. By the way, I'm going to hit on this in all the scientific research in an upcoming episode. In order to increase your motivation, you have to have a greater purpose. That's the big thing. And you have to tie that thing that you want to do to this thing, this driver that you have. I want to give you an example for myself. Here's my purpose. Love God, love people, make the planet a paradise. So, we read about the Garden of Eden in the Bible, make the entire earth the Garden of Eden, right? And so this is why I love regenerative agriculture. Myself and Jordan Rubin own 4,000 acres of certified organic land in Tennessee and Missouri, where we practice regenerative agriculture. We have, goats and sheep. We have a food forest. We're doing all kinds of incredible things there. But that's part of, but for me, I know that certain things will help me do that better, right? So when I woke up this morning and I worked out. And one of the things that really drove me to work out was knowing that I want to be running around with my daughter, Arwen, and her grandkids in my 70s, 80s, and 90s. I know that I've got a clear vision of what this thing is I want in life. And I know that I want to, I know that I feel better, more energy when I'm physically active, and I want to look and feel a certain way. So there are certain things. So write down, what are those positive things that you're going to experience by working out? So you want to really write those things down and get very specific, and then understand if I work out, it's going to help me accomplish this. By the way, Rockwise asks, where is this nutrition course you talked about earlier? We're going to pin it to the top here of the social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And so if you go there, but I think it's functional health course or something.com, but you can go on social media right now and you'll see it on there. And I think we have a link. It's called thehealthinstitute.com, and you'll see it right there. I see that we're posting the link in there right now. You can also go to my bio and I think click on the link and you'll see it there. Some other questions here as well. By the way, that motivation question is such a good one. Again, I've got a podcast where we're going to really dive into that and help you overcome laziness and get even more motivated there as well. Any advice if bedbound with meningitis? Yes, and so I think many of you know this. I talked about this earlier. By the way, I'm going to share the whole story on my first podcast release episode of I had an infection in my spine and it got into my bone. I had something called osteomyelitis where infection was eating away at my bone and couldn't walk for the past year. I just started walking about 10 weeks ago and getting more and more active. And so I was bedbound for a year. So what I did in bed was I just moved as much as I could, and I crawled. The big thing was I got in the pool. That was the biggest thing for me because I couldn't stand upright for a year, but I was able to get into the pool and walk in the pool and move in the pool. And so that's what I would say is if you could get into water, and that's for a lot of you, if you have any sort of joint discomfort or joint issues, get in the water. Move walk in place or run in place or swim on your back. Just do whatever you can. Water is so joint friendly. It's one of the greatest things. One of my heroes, Jack LaLanne, if any of you remember Jack LaLanne, lived to be 96 years old. He was swimming up until the day he died, 96 years old. And it's one of the things that he said that kept him alive and healthy for so long. So that's one of the things I would try and do if you ever have to be in bed for extended period, if you are able to get in the water. And if not, get 3-pound dumbbells. Just do what you can. Vibrational plates can be good if you can kind of get out, even crawl on a vibrational plate. These are all things that I did. And then Katie asked, how did the infection happen? It was just a routine. I was getting actually a stem cell, my own cells, like a healthy, natural injection. Somehow bacteria got on the needle and then it got into my disc and bone. It's like a 1 in a million chance. It was just very rare, but it happened. But you know what? I felt refined through the process, and I did my best to grow through the process. Jack LaLanne was a machine. Everyone loves Jack LaLanne. Great question. Sheila asked, any advice for improving mental and emotional health? Yes, and by the way, I was reading this research on just how many people today have mental health disorders today, and not just mental health disorders, but also struggle with other things like depression and anxiety, and the numbers keep growing more than any other. In fact, I would say as a health epidemic right now, it's worse than cancer and heart disease in terms of how fast it's growing. All that being said, if you struggle with these issues, I'm telling you right now, it should be tied to purpose is the big thing. And by the way, the greater, and I'm going to share something here with you, and I think that this may help you know where I'm coming from. for myself, I believe that I have a divine, my identity is tied to a divine identity. And so I believe that I'm a child of God, I'm made in the image of God, and that after I die here, there's an afterlife. And so right now, when I do things, not everything is for this present time. It's for my future, but also the future of my generation. So Arwen and her kids and her kids and the kids beyond them. And so for myself, like by the way, I had somebody say this to me. I wrote a book that comes out in April. I wrote an entire book when I was in bed. And I had somebody say to me, if I was in your position, I might just be eating Cheetos all day and just be depressed. And I said, you know what? I got a big purpose. Even if I'm bedbound, I've got a purpose. And so I'm going to connect with my daughter the best I can, and I'm going to do health. I was making health plans for people, and I was still running a business, and I was writing a book, and I was doing all these things because I know that I have a purpose in life. And that's to add value to other people. It's to transform lives. It's to make earth a more heavenly place. And when you know that deep down in your heart, it's motivating, it's inspiring. It takes away depression and anxiety, and also taking the focus off you. Here's something that I think a lot of people deal with health issues. I dealt with this issue where I wanted to keep, and by the way, it's like a tug of war. I kept wanting to think about myself. Woe is me. How could this happen? I've been in bed for 6 months now, and I feel terror. And I kept wanting to say, I'm a victim, because this is not something I did. It's not something that should have happened to me. It was supposed to just be a routine, like natural injection and just kind of be good for my back. Instead had this side effect. But what I did was I said, you know what? When I just focus on me and how bad I have it right now, it makes me depressed. It makes me anxious, hopeless, and I feel despair. I'm not going to focus on myself. I'm going to focus on how I can add value to others. That's what I did. That was a big part. And not to say I needed to be concerned about my own health some and do the things I know I needed to do and do some research and get vitamin IVs and hyperbaric chamber and get in the pool and exercise. I needed to do those things. But when I wasn't doing that for just those few hours a day, I was thinking about how can I add value to others? How can I use this story? Are there other people who are in this position that I can encourage? So that's the way you have to think about it, is right there. If you don't know your purpose in those deeper, bigger meaning in life, what is your identity? Who are you? Why do you exist? Like for myself, when I think about my identity as a role, number one, I'm a child of God. I'm a divine being. And so I have the ability to live for eternity and impact other people for eternity beyond even now. So one, I know that's number one part of my identity. Number two, I'm a husband. Number three, I'm a father. Number four, I'm a leader, helping people transform their mindset, and their health. And so I know my value based on my identity, and then your identity feeds your purpose. And then when you've got a big purpose, it's inspiring, it's motivating, it helps you overcome anxiety and depression. Think about Mother Teresa. They said she's one of the happiest people of all time. And she had it pretty rough herself in terms of her living quarters and not having money and everything else, but she just focused on serving those kids. She had a big purpose, right? She was doing it for eternity. So that's the way you want to think about it. And if you're feeling anxious and depressed, read about your identity and your purpose, shift the focus from yourself and how you can contribute and add value to others. And if you do that, it's the most inspiring thing imaginable. So many great comments here from so many people. I had somebody ask about acid reflux here, digestive issues. Here's the thing, if you're acid reflux, you need to eat smaller meals. You want to stay away from acid-producing foods like tomatoes and a lot of coffee. And you want to do a lot of cooked vegetables, rice, and meat. So think about it. This is ideal diet for most digestive issues. Lots of cooked vegetables, like steamed vegetables or vegetables baked in the oven with coconut oil, soups, a lot of meat, vegetables, berries, and rice. Rice cooked for a long time. If you eat most of those foods, there are supplements that are good, such as digestive enzymes as well. But those are some things you can do for acid reflux. By the way, feel free to share this and click the love button if you're enjoying this conversation right now. Thanks, everybody. who is asking so many great questions here and so many great comments here as well. I want to remind you, we've had several people ask about the functional nutrition course. This is a course I created for anybody who wants to become an expert in nutrition. It's really an incredible course. Not only am I'm one of the instructors, so is Dr. Christopher Motley, Jordan Rubin. We also have Courtney Bursich, a lot of people here as well that we have there. So if you want to become a health coach or nutrition coach, we have the link here that it's from the Health Institute that are posting that as well. And I've also had people ask me about growing their business. And if you want to have a purpose-driven business, we're going to put a link here as well. If you ever want coaching, there's an incredible mastermind group I'm a part of. It's part of leaders.com. By the way, if you want to learn more about personal growth and leadership, I have a website I started. It's called Leaders, Leaders, leaders.com. There's a mastermind group for business owners who want to learn more and become part of that and lead a purpose-driven business. All right, everybody. Well, hey, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. And I will be back next week with another live, so be looking out for it. And as you'll notice, I'm going to continue to put out health content. But in addition, I'm going to start putting out a lot more research and science about mindset and growing, and also about personal growth and career growth and how to optimize your life. Hey, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for watching this week. I'll be back next week with another show. Thanks everybody.